Hi everybody, welcome to Treehouse Knits. This is Rachel. How are you guys today? So good to have you here today with me. We've got a lot of fun things to talk about. One of the big things is we just finished the KitAlong 2018 and I'm going to announce the 3 winners for the KitAlong. We are also going to talk about mittens as usual this year in the Year of the Mitten. And I will share with you my Impressionist Mystery Knit-Along, as well as share just a little bit about what we did at YarnCon in Chicago last weekend. And I think that's about it. I have a little Norwegian fairy tale history too to read with you, or to read to you, I guess. So why don't we jump in and get started? You can find me on all the socials as Treehouse Knits, and anything I talk about today in terms of projects you can find on my Ravelry page. I'm Treehouse Knits on Ravelry as well. Show notes can be found at thknits.com. In the blog section, you'll see a tab where you can click on podcasts, and the show notes will be in there. So let's just jump right in and spend a couple minutes up front here talking about the winners of the KitAlong. Thank you so much to all of you who participated in it. There were some amazing kits that came to completion over the last couple of months. So I hope that that made you happy, that you got your kit done and you're enjoying your finished objects. There were 50 finished objects, and I'll start with the drawing from the finished objects thread. This particular thread, the winner is going to get the $25 gift certificate to the Woolly Thistle. So it's a big one. I did random number generator off the camera here, and I got number 37, who is Mariel Knits. Her name is Mariel, and she knit the Down Home Shawl by Alicia Plummer, and I'll insert a picture here of that. So congratulations, Mariel. Just get back to me somehow. You can either respond to this video, or actually send me a private message in YouTube or on Instagram. I'm Treehouse Knits on Instagram with your address, and I will send to you. Actually, I take that back. For you, I'm going to give your name to Claire at the Woolly Thistle, and she'll either get in contact with you with a special code, or I'll get in contact with you. So that is awesome. So thank you, Marielle, and thank you everyone who put finished objects in that thread. The other thread that we're drawing from is the chatter thread. We had over 231 chatters in the thread, and I random number generator picked 151. That's Prairie Fiberbird. Prairie Fiberbird, that's Sherry, and she made the Epistrophe by Kate Davies, and I'll insert a picture here. I believe what she ended up doing is she had a mitten kit with those colors, and she, instead of making a mitten, she wanted to use them in a sweater. So congratulations to Sherry. You have won your choice. Carrie from the Creative Obsession sent me 2 different choices and said I could keep one and give one for the giveaway, and I love them both so much. So Sherry, go ahead and either pick, I'll just call this the brown and pink version, or the blue and grayish version. Just let me know. Shoot me an Instagram or on Ravelry. You can send me a note and just let me know what your address is, and I will ship that to you. The third place where I drew was from the hashtag KitAlong 2018 on Instagram, and we had, boy, how many did we have? We had quite a few hashtags on that. And the winner of that hashtag is number 11, who's SHIRLEEKNITS. And Shirley knits, but she also cross stitches, and she won this prize, which is the project bag from Hopkins Sewing Studio. This is an awesome bag. I own 2 of these. They're big, they're well made, cool fabrics. Inside is a really nice cream colored fabric and pocket in there, and yarn guide. And Emily is just an awesome person, so you will be getting this. And she actually did a lot of cross stitching, like I said, and I'll insert the picture of the cross stitch here. she did a cross stitch called Winter House, and it's by Bent Creek Design. So thank you so much to all of you who participated, and we will keep on with the mitten, Year of the Mitten Cal that's going on in my Ravelry group in tandem with Patricia from she's P4Chen Knitography on Instagram. For my giveaway, just put in your finished objects or chatter thread. It's kind of one and all. Just head on over to the Ravelry podcast page, and there's a thread that's called Year of the Mitten 2018. We have already a lot of people who have added their mittens that they've been working on, and we're doing quarterly drawings. So we already did a drawing in March, and the next drawing will be in June, where I will choose from posts 136 and up. So feel free to join in on that. I think that does it for our administration. I finished my Lillehammer mittens. Those of you who are on Instagram with me have seen these, probably a lot, but they're finished. I love these mittens, and I'm so happy about them. I ended up doing a larger size. Here's what I'm finding with mittens. If the cast on calls for 80 or more stitches, I'm okay with a fingering weight. If it calls for 48 stitches, I need to do a DK or sport weight yarn. And for these particular mittens, the cast on was 48, and I used Tinde Hillesvåg. And that was part of the Norwegian yarn package that I got from my friend Lynn in Norway. And I ended up holding Rauma Final Garn, that's the cream colored, double. And it worked really, really well. It worked really well. So I might consider doing that going forward if I have a certain colorway in the Final Garn, but the pattern is a lower cast on number. I might double the yarn and go that way. I ended up, for this particular pair, I used the full skein of the Rauma Final Garn, and I only used like 44% of the blue Tinde, so I have quite a bit left, which is awesome. My youngest son, George, who is 12 going on 13, put him on when he came to visit me in my office here, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I love these. They're so warm, Mama. Can you make me a pair of mittens like that?" So that to me was the true test of these mittens, that and of the yarn, because if this were a scratchy kind of yarn, I don't think he would have really liked them. But super soft, super warm, and I'm really excited about having those finished. Lillehammer mittens by Tori SEIERSTAD, and I hope I'm not saying her name wrong. I have a feeling I am. I talked in detail about these mittens on the last podcast, and just kind of the story behind them, and that story is the race of the Birkebeeners, and it's all about how the Birkebeeners saved King Håkon, and you can hear a lot more about it in the last podcast. But those are finished, so that is a finished pair for me of finished number 5 for the year. I'm having so much fun learning about these different folk tales, and I thought, well, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of do a search on Norwegian fairy tales and folk tales, and I found a neat little short article about kind of the history of these folk tales and why they were written in the first place. So I thought I'd just read a little bit about that to you. I got this information from a website called fairytales.com, and the tales is spelled with a Z at the end, and they have different regions of fairy tales, and I clicked on the Norwegian region. And here's what they have to say about Norwegian fairy tales. In the 1300s, the Black Death touched 2/3 of Norway's population, which left them economically and politically disadvantaged for years. With the deaths of so many of their clergymen, who also happened to be the few people at the time who knew how to write, Norwegian literature and folklore would remain an oral tradition for a good 250 to 300 years more. During the Middle Ages, the rest of Europe was writing down poetry and prose, but Norway had only their oral traditions to rely on for the preservation of their history, customs, and knowledge. Considered national heroes, authors Peter Christian Ebbsjornsen and Jorgen Engebretsen Moe, am I saying that right, set across Norway in the 1800s and collected the folk tales of their people, creating an internationally recognized collection of folklore, a landmark in Norwegian literature and language, and a boon to the fairy tale world. They considered themselves compilers and retellers, as indeed they were, as they expertly helped create an autonomous Norwegian written language. The numerous dialects of Norway were too vast and complex for a national collection of folklore, so Ebbsjornsen and Moe, inspired by the Brothers Grimm, simplified the language while not losing the national heritage and uniqueness of the tales. Norwegian folk tales breathe life into the glaciers and fjords where spirits dwell and trolls make their homes. Simultaneously grotesque and quaint, Norwegian fairy tales are anything but a nursery or children's story. Sometimes Norwegian fairy tales are downright scary, but in being so, they are also gripping and exciting. The wild animals of Norway, bears and wolves, foxes and salmons, give aid to industrious and kind folk in need, and often know all of the secrets of the land and the machinations of the trolls and giants. Norwegian fairy tales wouldn't exist without princess and princesses, beggars who become kings, and wicked stepmothers who pay for their cruelty. They are tales of unlikely heroes and intrepid underdogs, of spell reversals and seeking one's fortune. I just thought that was really interesting. I wanted to share it with you. So since I have one off the needle, I like to have a couple mittens going. That means I get to put one on. And so for my next mitten, I'm going to pull one from the Eventervater book. And coincidentally, the next one I'm doing is also a mitten by Tori. And the next one that I am going to do is the Nattengalen, which in English is the nightingale. And the nightingale, I don't know if you got a good look at that, but you'll see the tree there with the little nightingale at the top. And the nightingale is a story written by Hans Christian Andersen, and he actually wrote this story in 1843. And rumor has it that, well, actually, I think he said that the tale of the nightingale came to him when he was visiting the amusement park Tivoli, which Tivoli is actually the amusement park in, I think, Copenhagen, that Walt Disney was inspired with to create Disney World. So it's one of the first, I believe, amusement parks. And in that park, there was an area that inspired him that was a Chinese pleasure garden. The nightingale is about a Chinese emperor who hears from other peoples from other lands about this amazing bird that sings such a beautiful song in his land, in his forest. So he asks his minions to get the nightingale, and so that he can hear the song. They are unable to find the nightingale until a young girl a really poor young girl who works in the works for the emperor, I guess, knows where the bird is. So they go and they capture this songbird, and she sings her beautiful song. The nightingale sings her beautiful song, and it brings tears to the emperor's eyes. And the emperor decides that he wants to keep that bird by his side so he can hear the bird sing all the time. Well, the bird gets put in a cage and loses its freedom. And in the end, what happens is someone sends the emperor a bejeweled machine, kind of a made-up bird that plays one song beautifully, and it looks so much more beautiful than the nightingale. And I'll stick a picture of a nightingale here. Anyways, this machine version of the nightingale is bejeweled with all kinds of gems and only plays one song, but it's beautiful. But in the end, the actual nightingale flies away because it's no longer wanted. The emperor believes that the artificially made nightingale is better because they can play the same song over and over, and he ends up, the machine artificially made nightingale breaks. he ends up on his deathbed, and people in the kingdom end up getting a new emperor already in line, and they all think he's going to die, when the original nightingale, the real nightingale, comes and sings a song and actually kind of shoos death away from him, and he lives. And it's really a story about kind of the artificial world versus the natural world, and it's amazing how these stories just apply so well through the ages. And in this day and age, there are many different areas in our life where we think the artificial way is better, but in the end we realize that maybe the original is the best. Anyway, so that's, I thought, a beautiful story, and I wanted to do that particular mitten. And here are some more pictures of the mitten. There's different ways that I could do the cuff. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it, but the main colors are going to be these Legacy Fiber Arts, this particular blend. And if you can see, the green has all different shades of green and some blues, and then this is actually a nice tonal, light tonal gray. So I thought I'd do this for the background and this for the foreground, which would be the leaves. And then for the top, for the nightingale, I kind of went through my scraps and I found this particular skein. I like the variation of the colors, but I also found this browner shade, so I'll decide what to do at the end for that. These are in DK weight, which is what I want to use because the cast on is 48, and I know that this will fit my hand versus the fingering weight version. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Yeah, I will probably start them on a size 4 and see how the cuff works up, and either keep it at a 4 or increase it to a 5 for the main body of the mitten. So the mitten that's been on my needles for a while is from the Mittens from Around Norway book, and I have been working on Rose Mittens from Shoke. I think maybe that's how you say it, but there are the mittens, and I am actually using Rauma Phenol Garn, the fingering weight, in kind of a peachy color, peachy pink, and a black. And this is as far as I've gotten. This has a cast on of 84 stitches, and I'm doing them on a size 1 needle, so these are taking much longer than my previous couple pairs of mittens. But I love, as everyone does, the Rauma Phenol Garn. It just makes such a good color work. And I have to say, my favorite needles right now for knitting these colorwork mittens are my CHIAGOO lace. I love the cord so much better than my Addi Rocket cord. And while I like the nickel platedness of the Addi, I do like the CHIAGOO tips and the material that it's made out of. The last thing I want to show you can be found in this bag. I got this bag a year ago at YarnCon from, maybe it was 2 years ago, from an amazing viewer that ran up to me and just gave me this bag. If you're out there watching, the person that made me this bag, I love this bag. I use it all the time. And in it is my Impressionist Mystery Knit-Along by Helen Stewart. Last year I did her Mystery Knit-Along. If you'll recall, if you've been watching the podcast for a while, it was this half circle shawl, and I loved every stitch of this. This was such a fun mystery knit-along. So when she sent out the notice that the mystery knit-along for 2018 was starting, I jumped right in. And what I like is her mystery knit-along, I could use a lot of those single skeins of fingering weight hand-painted yarns that I have in my stash already. So the colors that I chose were these 3 colors, and you can get the information about them on my Ravelry page if you're interested. This is a homespun house, and these are just a couple of scraps that I had, but I really liked the light, the medium, and the dark. And we're currently finishing up with clue 3 this week. We're gonna get clue 4, the final clue Saturday, and I am I'm ready for it. I just finished clue 3 last night, and here's how it's looking. I couldn't be happier with the colors that I chose. Let me get up close so you can maybe see them a little bit better. The lace section, while it was lace on both the right side and the wrong side, it was really easy, especially if you follow her advice of putting in the stitch markers for every repeat of the motif. And I'm kind of hoping that my dark color is going to be maybe a lacy border. That's my guess for clue 4, but who knows? I'm using my CHIAGOOs. Again, I love these CHIAGOO. I love the cord for when I'm working also on kind of a lace project, because I think because the cord is thicker, there's absolutely no join issues when I'm pulling across fingering weight yarn. So I think, and they're one of the cheaper cheaper needles out there, so couldn't be happier with how this is coming out. So YarnCon. By the way, I'm wearing my Changing Light shawl by Jennifer Wiseman. My guild did a knit-along this year, and we all had different colors that we used. I used a skein of a Malabrigo fingering weight, and I used a Frabjous Fibers pack of gradient greens in mine, and it really did turn out nice, and it was fun to see how everyone else's turned out as well. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing. But YarnCon, had a great trip to YarnCon. I posted a little bit in Instagram, Insta stories about it. I had a great time meeting some of you. Thank you for saying hello. If you were there and you saw me, it was great to meet some of you, and the train ride to and from was great. No problems, lots of knitting. And what did I get at YarnCon? You know, I have so much yarn that it had to be something really special for me to get it. And I was looking for some yarn for a particular person that I wanted to knit a scarf for. And I found this gradient pack by Leading Men Fiber Arts. It's their, oh, what color is it? It's a gradient called Alien Attack. Well, now I took it out of the bag. And here are the colors. I thought that would make a really fun gradient type of scarf or shawl. This would work up so beautifully in lace. And this is their superwash merino 20% silk, so it does have a little bit of a sheen that silk gives it. So I got that, and then I just got a little pair of scissors, but man, they are heavy scissors. They are scissors by Kelmscott Designs, and they called them the Susan Scissors, named after the great designer and teacher Susan B. Anderson. So they're really cute. You can see the little like polka dots on them, and they're really sharp, and I guess they're TSA approved, so you can take them on the plane, because this particular area of the, I guess maybe the scissor blade is shorter than what is allowed. It's shorter than what is allowed, not allowed. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but anyways, they're TSA approved. So that's all I really got from YarnCon. It was a great time, and if you're ever in the Chicago area, April, check out YarnCon. It just keeps getting better and better every year, I think. All right, so if you won any of our knit-alongs, get in touch with me. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing. I just really appreciate that you're here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below. Let me know what you're working on. And, well, I guess we'll see you on the next episode of Treehouse Knits. Bye.